We can say here is it's certainly within their wheelhouse, but what is unique about this team, and certainly in this matchup, is they have the capability to just run so much. They can right now play the standard 3-and-3 coach, much like Jupiter's also playing, but at the same time, if Xavier wanted to pull out some DPSs, we know they can do it.
Jupiter are going with the Reinhardt, while Xavier are sitting here with the Winston. That does mean eventually Jupiter should get the better of this one, especially when that Earth Shatter comes into play. So Xavier need to get good, aggressive early fights. They need
a lot of damage
in rotation, exactly like that they have just done declare. And now Jupiter in retreat. This is where, again, the mobility on the Winston. He can press forward, follow up, secure another kill, and Jupiter are left in disarray.
Yeah, Queen's just got to make sure he gets out alive, but other than that, it's been a pretty flawless opening defensive fight for Xavier. Usually, you'd be happy to just get a decent amount of damage as Jupiter rotates through in the offense, but here, getting that opening picks forces Jupiter to go backwards, forces them to reset, and on their retreat, you get another pick onto Commentators, slowing Jupiter down even more. Look at the ult charge difference now. Patapan's running away with it.
Jupiter off to a slow start. 1 minute off the clock, still plenty of time on the board, and Xavier don't have ultimates just yet, so if Jupiter don't fall prey to the same kind of passage of play, it could still get a fight win here.
Yeah, the problem is, it's back to square one for Jupiter. Look at the opening damage. You have to take too much. They will lose somebody.
Good bubble on Queen keeps him in the fight. Now that he's got a Primal Rage as well, it's going to be very hard to
environmentals.
Sabagod low. Does have a Transcendence if need be. Queen, though, a little bit too far out on the side and ends up getting stunned up to be finished out. So that's a bit of an early punish.
Oh.
Great catch on Theticon, who otherwise had a Transcendence. And now it's Xavier for whom it is starting to fall apart. They have a grab coming up soon. That's already a third on the point for Jupiter. They commit the grab in now, trying to follow up some kills. They get Anakin, but Jupiter more than happy to just push out from that one. Kenma Hororo, nice placement.
Xavier just trying to make the most of a bad situation there. They got a little bit greedy with the Primal Rage. Queen saw the opportunity to get a bunch of environmental kills with the Primal Rage. Unfortunately, gets caught out. The rest of his team too far away. They even had a Transcendence. Xavier's game plan should have just been to play slow, maybe buffer a bit more damage, wait for the grab to come up online, and then take that fight. Jupiter still had to spend one grab to get there, which means Patapan still has the opportunity to get the counter trade.
Sometimes when you're Primal Raging as the Winston, you see a cliff like that, and you just get the dollar bills in your eyes, get a bit too hungry for the environmental kills. But now approaching point B, Jupiter. Ultimates in the pocket. Xavier did preserve some good ones, so this is going to be a bit of a fair brawl. SQX on his back, but no death just yet. Transcendence to keep him safe. Grab, self-destruct. A lot of ultimates laid out, but no deaths either side just yet. Sabagod now. Transcendence has run out, and that was the last ultimate Jupiter had to go on. Now Jay pops a sound barrier. That's a leg up that Xavier had. Now that it's run out, though, no one's the better off for it.
There's a positioning that's important here. Claire caught out 99% as well. Couldn't get back to his own team. That's going to force a full retreat you'd expect from Jupiter now, who don't have ultimates to play with. They're being routed, and they could all go down.
And this is the thing. When you see teams start to rotate off to that side of the point, this is often what happens if someone dies in that rotation. You have a numbers disadvantage. Your back is against a sheer drop, and you have no path of retreat left. You end up taking a lot of losses.
And that's the one critical area for Jupiter as well. If they had the full 6, they can still group, they can still take that next fight. They actually absorbed a decent amount of what Xavier had remaining. That one Graviton Surge from Patapan was used, but it wasn't able to be followed up by the rest of the team. So Xavier just couldn't quite get the one they wanted until they found that one crucial pick. And Jupiter now looking for a bit more, and they still have the sound barrier, and it's got to be crucial this fight.
Sabagod's coming up on a Transcendence. Theticon is as well, but it means Jupiter will have 2 support ultimates instead of just 1. So if they can leverage these tools, if they can also get that grab in before Patapan has his.
Yeah, Xavier's waiting right now. They're waiting to see if they can charge this one up. They want to play defensively. Don't want to get caught out by Commentators just yet.
Oh, Samurai D, he's going to have to be rescued by that Transcendence, which is now not going to be there for Patapan's grab. Players holding on to sound barrier. Kenma has held on to this for a while, and it means that by the time he throws it out, Theticon's got a Transcendence. Finally, both grabs coming out from both sides. Transcendence on one side, sound barrier on the other, and a self-destruct tossed casually forward from THK. Finds nothing. Ryu gets Theticon, though, and finally the dam has been broken. The floodgates are open. They finish off Queen, and they look to keep the pressure on the rest of these members. So much charge in the pocket of Kenma Hororo. Goes right on top of Patapan to finish him out. THK going to be the next casualty. Sound barrier will not save him, and this is where Jupiter are starting to snowball ahead. Xavier are in full stall mode.
And this is where Theticon just needs to buy some time. Xavier need to draw something out from Jupiter. Get any time that they can, but Jupiter look like they're going to cap.
SQX dead as well. The Wrecking Ball was the other major stall tool. Now it's Patapan on the Tracer. Got stunned, barely got out, but that's not going to last much longer. Finally gets finished off, and they're just looking to keep members at bay. Haven't quite got that second tick just yet, but this is a point where Jupiter are actually recharging those ultimates up, while Xavier are still in panic mode, still in stall mode, and eventually it is going to start to tip the way of Jupiter.
This is where you start to look at this sort of matchup. Jupiter all but have secured this one. Xavier just do not have any ultimates left available. Graviton Surge should be able to secure it.
Yeah, and that was nicely done with the self-destruct thrown towards the other base gate as well. Xavier did a decent job of running a bit of extra time off the clock there when you consider when that fight started, so not too much time there. Let's go ahead and see how that very first fight played out. This was Claire dying in the rotation.
So Claire's a decent amount ahead right now. It's actually Sav got up there. Claire was actually caught behind. So Tay kind of copping, Tay sending a lot of headshots his way. And that ends up completely disrupting this rotation. The next thing that Jupiter do is they see the death and they start walking backwards and they lose more members, sadly.
Yeah, because of the angle that Tay was actually firing from, Claire wasn't quite covered by that shield. I mean, it's just rough. Like, it can happen, you know. Samurai D is right to keep the shield pointed where he was. That was the direction most of the damage was coming from. It's just something that happens sometimes. And let's get real, with that cap out there, Jupiter recovered pretty well from it. 2 minutes 34 on the clock. That's what Xavier really want to be trying to match or indeed outpace as we come into the second phase.
And honestly, when you have two teams this closely matched, small mistakes like that end up costing you quite a decent amount. Jupiter had a lot of recovery there to try and get back onto the point. Xavier had to misstep a decent amount to give up A. Then going on to B as well, you had another case where Claire unfortunately missteps, gets caught out of position, ends that fight very abruptly for Jupiter, getting the rest of their 5 members handedly punished as well. And it wasn't until the final couple of phases there, that second to last fight, where both teams had a large number of ultimates. It was like two dancing partners. They all knew the moves, but they were waiting to see which one was going to make the wrong step and which one was going to fall over.
Yeah, who's going to step on the other's foot. Takes 2 to tango, though. And pretend that I say another snazzy dancing-related line as Xavier on this. This is just going to be a scouting Sombra. They're going to swap off the Pharah as well.
This is where Xavier, with this kind of composition, going to need to be quick on their feet, as they need to make sure Patapan, along with SQX, this now triple DPS, could be even quad if Thidicon changes.
Yeah, I lied. They're not actually swapping out the Pharah. He was going back to pick up a Mercy.
Can actually just, you know, find an opening here. Speaking of opening, Queen, early death.
Yeah, that's an opening in favor of Jupiter, in fact. Or at least it's going to give pause to Xavier. They're going to have to wait for a moment.
And Queen's role here is really important as that Hammond player now swapping onto the Winston, because he does need to be able to put some point pressure. Xavier losing a bit of confidence in the DPS compositions, going to swap back onto the 3-3 goats before this defense gets way too out of hand for them to deal with.
And this is the right time to do it. They do lose some time on the clock, about 1 minute already gone. This is before Jupiter have ultimates though, so this is a very critical defense for Jupiter. They need to get kills to actually charge up those ultimates. Good movement in from Xavier, but Tay and Queen low. It's going to make things a bit hard, and Queen getting finished off. They didn't really get enough damage on the members of Jupiter, and this is where the defense can really start to run away because that late swap did come in for Xavier. Now Jupiter are coming up on ultimates, and they do have an economic lead.
And you can see there as well, Xavier choosing to commit Queen on the Winston, very important because they want to take an early fight. They know if they can fight soon, they're not going to be in a position where there's going to be ultimates in rotation just yet. Now that they are, Queen could actually just choose to go into the Rhine because they can afford longer rotations. They're going to be at a deficit anyway. Whatever they want to do, because they're staying on the Winston, probably going to have to take another quick fight.
Jupiter, rallies are free, that's a gimme. Genma Haroro, ooh, that's another rough grab.
That's also a gimme.
Reminded of Li Xiang Tower. I mean, Xavier, for free, have kind of absorbed the worst of it. Jupiter have a lot to go with still. Queen taking some pressure.
It's not looking too good so far, and Xavier are getting some decent positioning. Not looking too good, that is, for Jupiter, until they can start to find a kill. As long as they wait now, Patapan should get a Graviton.
Primal Rage from Samuraider, he knows what's coming. They have to get aggressive now. Nice catch onto Thidicon, who was running that Coalescence. With that off the table, this is where the damage can start to mount for Jupiter, who were running those ultimates. They've also got the Transcendence to respond to that Graviton Surge that Patapan had finally finished charging up. They only needed to commit all of their ultimates.
It's just a bit of a disconnection there because Queen went down, the Graviton Surge came through, and the most important member you want in the middle of the Graviton Surge to be doing the damage is Queen, is your main tank, whether it's a Winston or a Reinhardt. He's going to be able to do the highest damage output. Look at this. That's the grab you want.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because Ken Mahororo committed that so early in the last fight, even though it whiffed, he's charged up another one and can now maybe even lap Patapan if this continues going well. Already back at 30-40% off that with a ton of charge in the pocket. That was a great fight for Jupiter.
And Jupiter will be lucky to only have received a slap on the wrist for that earlier failed grab. This time around, because Ken Mahororo gets a really good one, they're able to snowball off. He's made up for that prior mistake. Less than 1 minute remaining. Jupiter in a great spot now. Xavier really struggling to find position.
Look at this, Thitticon miles away from a Coalescence. Tay only barely keeping pace with Claire, really. Actually a little bit ahead right now, but still, across the board, Jupiter are the ones looking healthier in terms of ultimates. 20 seconds coming up on the clock.
Which means it's probably going to be the last fight. Xavier still need to wait for Graviton Surge. And Ken Mahororo still has one.
He's got another one. He did indeed lap Patapan, not by much, but just enough. Self-destruct forward, doesn't get anything. Samurai D, with that Primal Rage, survives the counter grab from Patapan. Now just looking for kills. Coalescence is there to give Xavier some longevity in this fight. Anakin does go down to Queen, and that's an opening. That's an opportunity. Jupiter don't actually have anything else to use. Claire, close to a sound barrier, doesn't have it just yet. Sabagon's low. He's down and out for the count now. THK does get the mech, but it is Jupiter who are hemorrhaging the members, and Claire will not get that sound barrier available this fight. Xavier, no time left on the clock, but the overtime, it is still enough to cap a point.
And this is exactly what Xavier needed. Alive members, the right members at the right places when the grab comes down. Queen is still alive. He's able to do a lot of damage. Coalescence uninterrupted. Thitticon's able to challenge the entire thing without being taken up by self-destruct. Jupiter, despite having quick recharges on the Graviton Surge by Ken Mahororo, which he did in this previous match too, it wasn't quite enough. Jupiter now defending B, but they have taken so much time off the clock.
I like this timing on the swaps by Xavier as well. They actually preserve all the picks that had ult charge in the pocket, and it was the ones that didn't really have much that they were able to change out. This is very ideal. Jupiter, again, not much to go on, but for a grab coming up soon. Patapan early on the grab. Anakin down, not saved by the sound barrier. Now Ken Mahororo's grab. They've got a good amount of damage rather on Queen, and it is enough to finish him off. That is what Jupiter were banking on, and it does pay off.
Jupiter really need to win that one. It could have gone very sour for them if they couldn't get that last grab in. Getting that nice charge onto Queen as well just secures the rest of the damage. Getting their own Earthshatter up and available for that next defense. So this is where they can get a lot of time. Stagger onto THK as well, costing Xavier even more time on that retake. Less than 3 minutes remaining. This means it's unlikely, in fact, basically impossible for Xavier to match the time back of Jupiter.
This is also Xavier in a bit of a rebuild. Jupiter should be able to burn a lot of time off the clock in a good position like they were while defending point A. Xavier didn't break that until overtime.
Both teams missing the Graviton Surge right now. It's up to Samurai D. He's got the big whip and he's looking for the shatter.
That's a something. They're just looking to get that one through. Queen takes some chunks, but he's going to be fine for now. Still waiting for the opportunity. They decide to use a Transcendence to kind of cue the fight and get aggressive, and they demech THK. This is where I want to see them press that numbers advantage that they do have as Xavier retreat into that spot where you've got no room to fall back on.
And to be honest, if all you use is Transcendence and you can still win the fight, that's reasonably ideal. The problem now is they have to actually win that fight. Xavier is still positioned to recap, or rather to retake. They now want to push in. They're ready to fight. Xavier coming up to ults.
Yeah, no particular punish there. THK is still out of the mech though, so that's one advantage Jupiter have. Earthshatter's not too hot. Samurai D actually has to charge away to find a health back. Self-destruct! Beautifully layered! Beautiful bump with the sound wave to come out from Claire to get some members exposed out from behind Queen's shield. And off the back of that, Jupiter will get the fight win. A much more expensive one than I think they were wanting, but they do still secure it with ease.
And that one was getting a little bit tough for Jupiter. They needed to find a big W. They needed to find a big string of kills to really force Xavier off. Another issue that they do have to contend with now is Graviton Surge into Earthshatter. Both both available for Xavier. THK reasonably close to the self-destruct as well. Jupiter don't quite have as much. They need the Transcendence. They need it now, and they're going to have to really put a lot of work in. Less than 1 minute remaining. It's kind of do or die on both sides.
If they can survive this one, oh, just shy of that Transcendence, beautifully timed. Anakin already down, Kenma Horora as well, and now Sabagod knows better than just to commit this. They're going to wait for Xavier to get on the point, wait for the extra respawns. They did get a pick on Thetacorn.
And honestly, that's a pick that's very important. It's going to stop the sustain from Xavier, which could be the make or break. Jupiter are going to go in.
Nice angle from Sabagod to secure that one, to at least get some overtime on the point. Now the team all rallies back in. Claire's got a sound barrier, self-destruct first out from THK rather. Now Jupiter on the point, Earthshatter's in. Good charge in, they get SQX. They're starting to force Xavier back off this point. Now Thetacorn is only really just regrouped with the team, and that's still a 5v6 at best for Xavier.
And actually coming back on the Moira is important because Moira can get that coalition quite quickly, and Xavier need fast charging ultimates. They need something they can snowball. Kenma Horora could have the game winning ult though. Graviton Surge just about there, and Jupiter in position to complete this hold. 10 seconds now for Xavier.
Xavier not really anything they can respond to a grab where this is going to be a very tough fight for them. They've got very little to work with. Queen nearly had a shatter. Tay nearly had a soundberry. Nearly got that coalescence, but nearly is not nearly enough. Patapan's down already. Ryu with the self-destruct in. This one doesn't get anything. Shatter is down. Charge in from Queen. He gets Samurai T. That is something. Sabagod, Transcendence keeps Jupiter nice and healthy as both teams continue to jostle. All support ultimates burned and out now for Xavier as they're still looking to find kills. Queen low. Might get finished off here with all that charge on Kenma Hororo. Battered and bumped and bruised from every side. He will finally get taken down, and Jupiter look like they have got enough. They have got a critical mass. They get the damage onto THK. The rally is there, but it's only buying a few more seconds. Self-destruct's gonna have to be huge. It is not, and it looks like Jupiter still just slowly turning this around in their favor.
And they're coming up to ultimates as well. There's not really ultimates on Xavier. Jupiter have everything.
And there it goes, the everything committed as that time back ran out, that overtime rather, because while Jupiter had everything, Xavier had nothing, and that included no time. Full hold there on B after nearly getting a full hold on A. You've got to say, Jupiter have turned it back around from King's Row.
And that A defense is really what solidified that ultimate victory for Jupiter on Hanamura as well, because so much time was taken off the clock there. Xavier just didn't have the same amount of room for error that Jupiter did. And honestly, Jupiter didn't even need the room for error because they got that attack done and dusted on that B offense and completed the actual map where Xavier could not. Small margins, you got to say still, and looking at this replay as well, it could have gone either way.
So this is that right click, like I said, you get Queen's shield down and it exposed Thetacorn as well. This is what we see a lot of Lucios doing these days, especially now that the Brigitte can't stun through the Reinhardt shield. The Lucio is the big playmaker both for setting up stuns and basically just getting the shield, getting the Reinhardt out of the way so that other critical ultimates can connect. So really beautiful play from Claire.
And difficult to do. It's not like the old Brigitte, a shield bash where you can just stun through the shield immediately. This one you have to be able to, in this case specifically, time it such that the Graviton Surge ends, then you get the boop to then push everyone away as the explosion happens. There's a lot of small moving parts there that if it wasn't timed properly, if the self-destruct was maybe going to explode a little bit early while the Graviton Surge was there, or the Graviton Surge lasts a little bit too long, it just doesn't marry up, it just doesn't line up the way you want to, that combo doesn't actually work out for them. So again, small margins and well executed.
Yeah, super impressive on the whole. And I mean, it's little things like that, just along with the whole strength in the macro play actually that allowed Jupiter to secure that win. Again, we've just got to say it was inherently impressive. You know, it's even just the fight win they had on B, which was a very protracted engagement, but it was one they started winning very quickly, and it was good to see that just kind of get confirmed, that one get over the line. We do see, in fact, this season we've seen it more than we have for a while, teams getting off to a good start and getting up to, you know, a sort of 80 to 90% mark and then slowly but surely getting pushed back off. The fact that Jupiter steered safely through that one is really a testament to the skill.
And the small things as well, one thing I want to highlight was that one last cheeky kill, the charge onto Thetacorn on one of Xavier's final pushes ends up being actually a massive deal because 5 versus 6, losing one of your supports, losing your ability to sustain, that ends up kind of costing them that fight. Then they have to come back, losing Patapan super early, has to come back on the soldier.
They never had the upper hand.
It just never really worked out. They never had the 6-player advantage versus lower numbers on the Jupiter side. It was always the opposite in Unfortunately, that does mean they dropped that map, but it's still very competitive. We're going to go to map 4 pretty soon.
Yep.
It's going to be Junkertown. It's going to be Xavier looking to see if they can make a comeback.
They really do here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see both of these teams just trade the maps back and forth until we eventually get to that tiebreaker. That is what has happened when these teams last met, which was in a semi-final that Jupiter took out. It's a long time ago, many moons, many metas ago, in fact. But still, both these teams starting to find themselves dancing the same steps. Coming into Junkertown, I think the only thing we really have to go on here, I actually think more relevant on Kings Row was Jupiter's defense than Xavier's attack, because a lot of Xavier's attack was snowballing from the cap. That cap is not a factor on Escort.
This is the map where I do get the feeling that Xavier Esports want to turn this dance from a waltz into a salsa. Patapan on the trademark Widowmaker here. Double sniper is the key for Junkertown A. And you've got possibly the best sniper in the Pacific region.
Oh man, Anakin has no idea what he's in for. Actually, if anything, he knows exactly what he's in for as soon as he sees Patapan on that Widowmaker.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Widowmakers on the opposite end of that scope, not having a lot of fun. SQXO, the partner on the Hanzo, needs to also do a decent amount of work. You look at Kemahororo, already on 31%. It's a good lead.
Yeah, both are just looking to set up those angles. Ooh. Crossfire! Absolutely beautiful. Patapan gets shot out the skies. Amakin's already had his metal tested. Patapan does get raised back in, but Jupiter, they've been able to take priority. Dedicorn goes down. Sabagod, it's all just fratricide here. Ken Mahororo found Patapan again anyway. All kills have been headshots so far.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an awkward start for Xavier Esports, testing out the waters there, finds out it's pretty hot actually. Jupiter getting ahead now, predominantly in the ultimate charge. Amakin 74%. Patapan's actually just on 20. This could snowball the double sniper a little bit further in Jupiter's favor once infrasight is a factor.
You get that early crossfire when you're the defender. You've got that slight advantage, and Xavier actually, they have to really pick one of these snipers before they can realistically start turning that back around. It's going to be a great chunk of kills coming out here. And Jupiter are really just hitting their stride, and the ultimate's being charged up now.
Yeah, this is where Xavier, they are absorbing some ultimates though, so it's not all lost. Double sniper ults being used on the Jupiter side. Xavier now making a couple of swaps. Oh, they just don't want to play double sniper anymore. They've actually got the cart decently pushed up, so if they can just really get aggressive here with this 3-3 comp, Queen of the Winston as well is able to challenge a couple of the snipers. That's going to be important for Xavier.
Supercharge into a whole hog, though, does represent a high amount of DPS that Xavier are going to have to contend with. It's a real meat grindery kind of thing to have to fight through. And here it comes out now as the dive comes in. The Roadhog can just kind of sit pretty, doesn't need to worry about the Winston in behind it, and eventually the damage does become insurmountable. That plus the crossfire, the shots continuing to come out from the snipers. Xavier, now that those ultimates aren't on the table though, might have better luck with this push.
This is where Jupiter just get to cash in ultimates they charged earlier. More than 2 minutes already off the clock. Xavier still just in a little bit of a weird spot where they're deciding what exactly they want to play. Patapan's feeling, maybe I do just go on the Widowmaker here because he needs to find some picks. THK is going to play the Zarya instead, and it's going to come down to Xavier. Not a lot of time left, still has to find kills.
And again, this is just cashing in on ultimates, the lead, the advantage, self-destruct forward. Actually finds Patapan just when it was looking like they were going to get nothing between the two ultimates they committed. And now with a numbers advantage, hook onto THK. They found one on the side on Dedicorn, hook onto SQX. THK as well is not going to make it back. And now coming into that 1 minute territory, Xavier still yet to make any real headway.
That's the speed that the game is being played at by Jupiter right now. That's quite concerning for a team like Xavier because Xavier probably want to play a game where they can wait for Patapan to find angles, get something done. He's now the solo sniper. SQX is back on the Hanzo as well. So we kind of just went in a bit of a loop here. Xavier just go back on kind of the original composition. They still are in the same spot, unfortunately, which is not very far in distance.
Jupiter are coming back up on that, oh jeez. as I say that, Anakin gets a headshot on Queen. So now they're all but guaranteed to have that supercharger whole hog combo as this next fight really breaks up. Finally, one dies on the side of Jupiter. Claire's got a res though. It's first time he's really needed to use that, I have a feeling, and Xavier's still struggling to make headway as SQX dies. Patapan needs a headshot. Xavier, 20 seconds. They just got to go.
Yeah, they don't have a lot to go on. They need more respawners. They don't have another res. There's so many kills coming from Jupiter.
They are at least close enough that 15 seconds is still doable for getting back to this payload, but now they need to start getting back to it, and they're going to be doing so right through a whole hog. They are aware of this, and now they have to go. Here they are onto the payload now. It's going to be one way to get on it. The self-destruct still cuts off Queen. He will not make it into the fray here. And that's going to be an extra cutoff from the Dragon Strike. Queen gets forcibly raised back in. Even Stevens numerically, but here's that whole hog. That drops Queen for a second time in the skirmish. And now Theticore and the rest, they all start to fall down. Patapan finally peeks out from behind the blinds to get one on Kenmo Hororo, but that's all he will walk away with. I said the defense that Jupiter had on King's Row was going to mean more, and it did.
This is where for Jupiter, it's a team where they just are so prone to going to their map 5, especially against teams that are quite close to them in terms of competitive skill. They just want to end it right here. They do not want to go to Nepal. They want this to be a 3-1, and they're in position to secure that 3-1. A full hold on to A. The current distance is reasonable, but realistically not quite enough for Xavier to complete a hold unless Xavier have a absolutely monstrous defense. And based on how their offense went, they kind of got caught out numerous times. It doesn't give you a lot of confidence to say that they can then start to win on defense.
And this is where Xavier move into uncharted territory because they full held Jupiter on King's Row on a static point before the payload was a factor. And this is why I said Jupiter's defense would matter. We've already seen how well they can stop up that mobile payload. They can keep Xavier at bay time and time again. Now the question is, can Xavier come remotely close to Jupiter's caliber in that regard?
Xavier don't want to take a risk here. They do not want to play any DPSs. They want to make sure that with this 3-3 comp, they can scale with it effectively. They can be in a position where if we start to maybe lose, we can still, come back strong. It's going to be a composition where even if we don't have ultimates against something that's non-3-3 goats, we can still take a fight. Problem here is Jupiter, as the attack is 4 full minutes. Once they see this defense, they can swap accordingly. They can keep playing double sniper. They can play the bastions too. They can play all the picks that would commonly shred through a bunch of tanks.
Really, Jupiter holding on to all the cards here.
Should be suspicious now
of the order in which they'll play them, and yeah, they do spot this one out now thanks to Kenmo Hororo. Knew what he was looking for. Oh, THK's already out of the mech. Counterpicker's there on Anakin though.
There's one trade to work with, and they're getting decently aggressive. The problem is Jupiter can just fire at them from spawn, spam at them from spawn, look for halt hook combos. Nearly gets one.
Slowly move that payload forward as well and start putting pressure on Xavier. If Xavier ever let this payload go past them, they're suddenly fighting from behind, the wrong position. That's, again, big damage coming out onto SQX. He stays alive, but Xavier are going to have to start giving up some ground. No, he does not stay alive, and now they definitely have to give up ground. Queen might be in trouble here as well. Oh, no.
The positioning is all over the place for Xavier. They could not contest against the high ground with this kind of 3-3. Ultimate's even starting to follow through now. It's snipers all over the place, angles all over the place, and Xavier cannot single out anybody.
And it is all over. But the crying now, that was what Jupiter had set themselves up for, what they had allowed themselves to gain, what they had sowed, now they will reap. This is Xavier coming in for a last pass. Queen already hooked in, already so much damage. Self-destruct layered up. Jupiter had the ultimates to play with. Xavier still on the back foot here. It's going to be a whole hog out from Savagon as well. Big pressure, big meat grinder. Samurai D does get dropped though, Ryu as well. Theticore traded back. Could be anyone's fight. Xavier coming into some ultimates. Tay goes down though, which means no sound barrier. Ryu does get finished off, but thanks to the res on Samurai D, they can pop a supercharger down, just entrench themselves. They are still absolutely fighting and brawling. Xavier are starting to pick a few back. They are not out of this one just yet. They will claw themselves back from hell if needed.
Xavier just managed to get ults in time. You see the Earth Shadow, you see the Graviton Surge still available. Double support ultimates. Can't really afford to lose Queen, unfortunately.
Closer respawns for Jupiter will start to matter, and they are getting back on the payload, starting to inch it forward. They can just take a break, move back in as they make some space. Nice halt hook to get onto THK, take that mech out of the picture. Now they're just waiting, biding their time, looking for that next pass.
The problem is Xavier is starting to run out. They had the grab, got Eden, they had the Transcendence. It's been used. It's just a sound barrier. Can they win with only a sound barrier? It's not too good unless they get kills.
That is perfect, and it gets THK back in the mech as well. Xavier have finally started to recover from a passage of play that has been slipping out of their control since gates opened.
And this has been the first really full reset for Jupiter. All the way back to spawn, making a bunch of changes. Now, this is where Xavier can actually win. Xavier in a position now where they've got 3-3 versus 3-3 in a mirror, and they are ahead in ults. They've got that composition first. Jupiter are starting to catch up, but they don't have a lot of time to work with. Just about 1 minute.
Just when it looks like Jupiter have created for themselves the perfect storm, Xavier, they are not going to let themselves fall out of this one like that. Self-destruct laid up, doesn't get much, but Ryu's isolated. He gets the mechs, and that's, again, already an early advantage for Xavier, who still have a lot of ultimates about to come up off cooldown. Jupiter are still sorely lagging behind, less than a minute on the clock now.
You can start to feel the ties shifting here. Xavier getting more kills, Xavier getting more ultimates. Roughly about 30 seconds-ish kind of remaining here. Jupiter still waiting for their first ult on this new composition. If they can't get it in time, they're not going to finish the map.
Ryu does get back in the mech though, but Xavier still have a massive advantage in ultimates. They're going to go ahead and straight up commit that grab, as there is not enough time on the clock for Jupiter to really wait for a big gamma to respawns. Kenma Hororo is going to die late in that one, and Xavier preserved most of their ultimates to boot. Less than 15 seconds now for Jupiter.
And the worst fears may yet to be realized for Jupiter, that
Ryu's just got to
dreaded map 5 could still be there. Somebody needs to touch the card as well. This is really, really upsetting.
There they go, Ryu. It's at least close enough that he can get there, but he's already taken big damage. The overtime begins as Ryu is out of the mech. Where are going to be the counter trades in favor of Jupiter? The answer is for now nowhere. Sabagot already committing the Transcendence to get one on SQX. Tay low, Queen low. They might just still be able to do this. They've got Queen, Patapan's in trouble. Self-destruct from THK. Needs to rescue this, but it's stuck on the bridge. And Jupiter have managed to do it just when it looked like Xavier were going to kick and scream their way out of the grave. Jupiter push them back down and are going to nail that coffin shut as they march the payload to its final resting place. 3-1 for Jupiter.
And this is where Jupiter rewrite the story of Kings Row and the other maps as well, where unfortunately on that particular second map, they could not get past that Xavier defense, where Xavier just held onto it so strongly. Even when Jupiter had the right things working for them, they could not get past. They could not be in a position where, for Xavier, just continually finding ways to win. They get something from nothing. It looked like Xavier about to once again get something from nothing on that A defense on Junkertown. It was so close down to the wire, that final fight. The self-destruct on the bridge, missing everybody. Again, small margins for this entire series, but Jupiter, they put themselves in a winning position, and they eventually got that win.
I mean, it really doesn't get any closer than that, does it? And I mean, we even said just right from the get-go, even after seeing only Lijiang Tower, we knew this was going to be a series where no matter what happened, no matter the end scoreline, it was going to be close. It's always one of those scores that's never going to tell the full story. I think even if it went to a full 5 maps, it would almost not quite tell the story of exactly how close each one of those maps ultimately came. And that did come really down to the wire. Yeah. Absolutely stunning play from both of these teams. A well-deserved win by Jupiter. And now Xavier, even with 2 losses under their belt, I think should really feel proud of that. Standings might not show it, but this is a team that is here to compete. This is a team that's here to make a serious run for playoffs.
And despite having the exact same score as last week for Xavier, you'd actually say this is a better performance overall.
By a long
and this has been a bit of a step up. Last week, Xavier seemed to be a little bit asleep on most of the maps that were in there. Kind of clawed one back towards the end. This one, you kind of felt like they had the capability to win, starting from map 1, 0-2 on Lijiang, still winnable. Kings Row, easily their map to play. Hanamura, kind of 50-50. Junkertown, even at the end, when it felt like, no, this should be Jupiter, started to turn into a coin flip. Still ended up being Jupiter, but it wasn't without difficulty. Jupiter had to really fight for it. Xavier really pushed Jupiter to the brink.
Now, that being said, for Jupiter on their sort of return, the reunion tour almost, you know, not going to be sophomore slumps. It's going to be comeback of the year. This is that good start they needed, and as close as we can say this came, and as proud as Xavier should absolutely be of this, when all is said and done, it is Jupiter who actually get the win under their belt. And for a team that wants to prove that the time away hasn't hurt them, that they are still that team that nearly won Season 2 of Contenders last year, This is exactly what they need on their scoreboard.
I think the biggest win is actually on Junker now, not because that was the 3 on the 3-1, but because they beat Xavier specifically on the composition that Xavier on paper should have been better at. Let's go back to week 1 again. Global Esports versus Xavier. Map 4, Gibraltar, is when Xavier came back off the back of excellent Widow plays from Patapan. That didn't happen here on Junker. That didn't happen when Anakin pulled out the scope, when Kemo Hororo was firing the arrows as well. Very quiet double sniper gameplay coming through from Xavier this time around in week number 2 compared to what we saw in week number 1. The only place for Xavier where they may have taken a bit of a slide backwards. Everywhere else, it seems like they did improve.
It was really surprising, actually, that was the one place where Jupiter seemed to just really outclass them, because it's the place you expected the least. I mean, Patapan notwithstanding, this is just a team that really knows how to play with their snipers. And we talked a little bit about how one of the few changes from Jupiter between the Cyclops Athlete Gaming days and now is the loss of Depp, who was their go-to Widowmaker play. But
big shoes to fill.
Really filled those big shoes, I would dare say.
Yeah, because we go back a couple of seasons, the reason why you don't talk about Patapan's Widowmaker is because Depp's Widowmaker was the one to talk about. It was so insane that I think there's still that clip of, you know, Depp, I'm pretty sure it was against Patapan's Genji that just point-blank headshots. It's stuff like that.
Over and over and over.
And because you have such overwhelming players like Depp, you forget that there's other players in. Suddenly, a couple seasons, a season missing in there, Anakin comes back. You don't even think he's got a Widowmaker in the pool. Well, guess what? Everyone now knows he's got that in the pool, and they're going to need to prepare for it. But that is all our week 2 matches done and dusted. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that panned out.
Of course, we did have Kix kicking it off with a 4-0 over Giant Lynx, a real must-win for both of those teams, and it's Kix who get to walk away with it. And then, as we have just seen, Jupiter with an impressive but ultimately very close 3-1 over Xavier Esports. Let's take a look at how that reflects in the standings, because that does leave Jupiter actually tied for first with Talon, strictly speaking.
Yeah, Global Esports there, number 3, Kix in number 4. These are all teams that have now gotten their first wins. Nova MS and Cyclone Coupling as well, all sitting on 1. Xavier now joining Giant Lynx down to the bottom, 0-2. But I dare say it's a pretty big difference in terms of actual skill level and results here when you start to consider how close Xavier were to Jupiter, and also Global Esports, also represented by the -4 versus the -8.
There's some quirks in the standings there as well. You know, Kix seem like they're hovering around that middle of the pack, but I dare say power rankings-wise, Xavier vastly outstripping them, potentially even outstripping some of those other teams with the 1-1 scoreline. Nova MS and Cyclone Coupling definitely in Xavier's sights at this juncture. And with that in mind, let's go ahead